Hi, I'm Eric and I'm making the Black Pepper Crew, a game about a group of bounty hunters. And this is not the Black Pepper Crew, this is Ragnarok, a small game that I made for the Mist Jam. The Mist Jam is a jam created by Nisis, who is a game developer and YouTuber that is famous for his 4 developers, 1 asset kit videos, which are actually really good and I really enjoy. He created this jam with the same rules and I wanted to participate. I find the concept really interesting, so I took 1 week of game development and this is the result. Now this episode is going to be about the development of this little game. Now let's get to it. So first, the rules are actually very simple. You have 48 hours to make a game. The jam was 1 week long, but you have only 48 hours to make the game. So you have to distribute the hours in any way that suits you. For me, it was difficult because I don't have enough time to devote 48 hours in that week. So I just did what I could with the little time I had. The other rule is that there is an asset pack and you can only use assets from that asset pack. So there's no theme like a regular game jam, and the theme is actually using the pack and coming up with whatever idea I can get from that. So the asset pack is one of Kenny's 1-bit pack that is full with a lot of stuff. I just felt completely overwhelmed by the possibilities of whatever I could do. The first part of my time in the jam was devoted to brainstorming and finding what to do. At the beginning I intended to make a spaceship game where you could upgrade and build your ship with parts. And in the end I didn't like the ships I was creating with the asset pack. I mean, I was completely overwhelmed at the time and I wasn't very creative with that, so I dropped that idea. I always wanted to make a roguelite kind of game and with swords, and this pack actually had a lot of swords, and went for that, for a game about swords. And for the character, I figured I wanted a side-scrolling kind of game because the swords are sort of in a side-scrolling perspective. And I actually found this little guy, this skeleton, I really liked. And using pieces from all the asset, I built the body of the character, and I made him sort of a floaty kind of guy with just feet, hands, the body, the head, the elbows, and the knees. I created a node that calculates the distance between the hand and the shoulder, so the knees and the elbows are calculated each frame, and I have to worry about animating those. And then I just started creating logic for the hands. In the end I used a state machine for each of the hands, so I could make independent actions. And the idea is that you have 2 swords and you could do a big slash, and with your sword you can stab. So the stab is sort of a low attack and the slash is sort of a high attack. That's sort of the idea. At the beginning I intended to have enemies that could block your attacks, so that make more sense. In the end, none of the enemies can block, so it just doesn't matter which kind of stab you use. The only difference within attacks is that the slash is slower and the stab is a little faster. And then I created the parry mechanic. Because you have independent hands, you have independent parries. Left hand, it's sort of an up parry that blocks every attack that comes towards the head, and the right hand makes a parry that blocks everything that comes towards the body. For that to make sense, I created 3 types of enemies. That actually was very hard for me to get some enemies that felt good to me. I mean, I started trying different combinations of elements from the asset pack, and in the end I took these 3 colored small characters that looked like sort of a bandana and combined it with some other stuff around there, like a suitcase and a jar or something like that, and it sort of looked like Vikings or something. That was cool, so I went with that. I created these 3 characters. The swordsman will stab, so you block them just with your right hand, and the archer throws arrows towards your head, so you have to block using the left hand, and The mage casts two kinds of magic. The fire magic drops fireballs from up of the screen, so you have to block that with the up parry, and it has some ice shard magic that throws several shards towards the character, and those are blocked with both parries. So after that, I started creating the logic for the characters using several state machines for the logic of the characters. At the beginning, I intended to make them with the same logic of the player character, but after a while, it started taking so much time that I just used the animation player to create the attacks. Because I was running out of time, I ended up creating just a corridor. I argued with myself for a long time about using jump mechanics or something like that. And one of the things that I really enjoyed making, actually one of the things that I did the first, was that I created a sort of procedural generated swords, combining several of the hilts of the sword with the edge of the swords, and change the size of the swords so you have small and long swords. The long swords are sort of slow but reach more and block more, and the small swords are faster but they don't block that much. Some arrows can get you if they are on the right angle. You have to make that kind of decision with which kind of sword you prefer. Other than that, it's just for fun. The generated swords don't have sort of other stats. Other thing that I really wanted to make is just to create silly names for the swords and to randomly generate them. In the end, they are not that silly, but they are not that good either, so it's just random names like, I don't know, Serpent's Tooth or something like that. Some of the names are actually very epic, Man-Eater, but Man-Eater is a possibility, Star-Eater or Serpent-Eater, or I don't know, all of those weird combinations. I created equipment using some of the assets there to look like hats. The idea is that if you get a hat equipped into your head, then you have extra health that cannot be replenished. Once the equipment is broken, you just go to your regular health. I created some specific music for this to make it more epic. I created a character that you can customize by changing the head and the body. I even changed the time scale of the game every time you kill an enemy to add to that epicness. And I think it feels nice. I'm happy with the result. And I don't know, give it a try. Tell me what do you think about that. If you want to try the game, it's down in the link of the description. For the next devlog, I'll be back to the Blackberry crew. I just want to say that I've been working mostly on pitch deck building and some documentation, so I'm not making stuff related to game development, just game production, I guess, because I intend to get a publisher for this game, because I really want to devote myself to it, and I probably hired some people to help me with some of the stuff that I cannot do, like writing, for example. And I was thinking about releasing devlogs not on a weekly basis, but every 2 weeks. That will allow me to focus more on game development and make better videos, because every week I have little progress, so I don't have too much to talk about, and that's not very interesting. So with that said, hopefully I will see you then in a couple of weeks. Thank you for watching, and see you around. Bye!